Hey everybody, back with another Brothers War draft video. I'm attempting to record on 1080p. We'll see if it succeeds. A lot of you asked for that. Obviously, I want to give the best resolution I can. I don't know if that's going to mess up this whole video, or if it's going to look great, or if it's going to look weird. We'll see. But what I do know is, it's a new season. It's January. I got up to Diamond over the weekend, so that's where we're at now. And we're going to try and advance. Let's see. Hajar is obviously a good card. Like, it's a 2-mana 3/3. If you're red-green, you're happy to have this. But it is way more fancy than good. There are not very many legendary creatures in this format. And it's a gold 2-mana 3/3, so not something I'm interested in. First picking. Static Net is excellent. Great removal. Splashable. Powerful late-game card. Helps you ramp out those 7-mana artifacts. That's almost certainly what we're going to take. Let's go take a look at the commons, though. These uncommons aren't very good. I mean, Frontliners are playable. It's probably a little better than it looks, but it's not that exciting a card. Disciples of Gix is expensive. It's not an artifact. Yeah, and the commons in this pack are not good at all, really. I don't even know what the best common in this pack is. It's not good. It's bad. Probably, well, Opportunist is good. Sorry, I didn't see Opportunist hiding in the right. Bottom right. Opportunist is definitely the best common in the pack, but Static Net is definitely the right pick. As far as Opportunist is a top common, like not number one, but you know, top 10 for sure. Like, it's a good card. I just didn't see it. But, okay, second pick. Let's see. But it's not close with Static Net. Second pick, let's see. Adaptive Automaton is good in white. White has a lot of soldiers, like a lot of little soldier tokens. So that's probably Automaton's strongest color. I think Automaton is worse than it looks. Like, the creatures are, this isn't a tribal format, right? Like, the creatures are all different types. So as a whole, like, you don't get a lot of value out of Automaton in a lot of decks. But in a white weenie deck with tons of soldiers, it can be really good. As far as Avengers, good. And it's good with Static Net, more of a rampy, control-ish type strategy. Power Stone Fracture is excellent removal. This card is overperformed from day one. There's just such easy stuff to sack. It's so cheap and effective. Sometimes the sacking is even a bonus. I like the Golem a lot too. Green, as has often been the case lately, has the most powerful late game. It's really, we used to think of blue as the controlling color, and I don't want to get into a semantic debate about what it means to be control, but really green is the color with the best late game these days. I'm going to go with the Automaton, not because it's necessarily substantially better than the Fracture or the Golem, but it's a colorless card. We can play it in any deck. It is best in white, which Static Net is. Look, I'm not saying that's what I'm going to draft. If I end up seeing a bunch of good green and black, I'll play green, black, and splash the Static Net and drop the Automaton. But if I do go white weenie, I'm going to want the Automaton a lot more than I'm going to want a Power Stone Fracture or a Golem. Power Stone Fracture would actually have been my next choice. If I was going to take a card out of that pack besides the Automaton, it would be the Fracture. And I do think Fracture is better than Automaton. Like, pick one, pack one, I would take Fracture. But again, Static Net's a good card. Automaton's best in white. It's not that much worse. So I think that's a reasonable pick. But if you were going to take Fracture there, that might be correct. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. Okay, Chromatic Stars, fine. Thopter's fine. Disenchant's fine. This pack is very unexciting. I don't really want any of these cards badly, so I'm going to stick with the colorless plan. I don't see a reason to take, like, any of the colored cards. Disenchant's not a card I want multiples of. This is, you know, best of one. There's no sideboarding. So Thopter's just going to be good in any sort of little aggro weenie deck, and good in any deck, really. Okay, so now we may have to make a pick, because by make a pick, we have to make a pick every pack, of course. I mean, a tough choice, because, you know, we're not committed to white at all, though Automaton is somewhat of a white card, like I've spent a pack and a half saying. Chaplain's good. It's not filler. It's a good playable common, Airlift Chaplain, that you want to have multiple copies of. You're happy to have multiple copies of. But Power Stone Fracture 4th is telling us black is open, and it's a substantially better card. And black-white grindy can make better use of Static Net and Thopter than probably like a white-red aggro or something. So I feel like at this point I'm probably going to want to take the Fracture. I mean, I might regret not taking the Fracture second pick, but, you know, I'm not psychic. I didn't know there was going to be a Fracture here 4th. And it does look like we might be seeing white. I mean, the Chaplain is probably the next best card in the pack, but I think Fracture is too much better. So we're going to take that. And yeah, look, a bunch of little white creatures that are good. These are both very solid white common playable creatures that you're happy to play with. So, I mean, we're going to take Paratrooper Chaplain here for sure. Warplow is like fine, not exciting. None of the cards in this pack, honestly, are fine. I mean, are exciting. Even the two white commons, these are both solid playables for white weenie decks, but I wouldn't call either one exciting. Paratrooper is good. It definitely gets a little worse in multiples, but it's a useful card. I don't know if we want to take it or the Chaplain. Chaplain, we have a lot of threes. Well, we have 2 threes, and that's both of our creatures. It's early in the draft. I would definitely take either one of these over the other one for curve considerations. I feel like they're pretty close in power level, but we don't really have a curve yet. It's pack 1. So I'm going to take the Chaplain, actually. I think that even though it's my third 3-drop, like, we don't have 2s. Like I said, it's pack 1. We don't have to worry that much about curve just yet. And starting with these Chaplains early mean you can prioritize, like, unearthed creatures and get that value. They're honestly just a good card. I mean, 3 mana, 1/1 flying that puts another creature in your hand is excellent, or gives you a land if you drew exactly 3 lands. Like, honestly, it's just a good card. But listen, I like the 1/2 flyer that pumps things too. Like, you know, that's a card that definitely, like, it doesn't look great, and it really does overperform because you can spend your mana productively on turn 2, and then it's good in the late game. Okay, I think Self-Assembler, Aeronaut, Cavalry. It's more likely the Cavalry will end up good. Soldier. Yeah, I just never get there on self-assemblers. I mean, the thing is, if you have 2, that's still not, like, great. You need more stuff to search for. Like, if you have 2 self-assemblers and then you play a couple of the common constructs, that's fine. But it's not that exciting. Those are hard to get there on, I think. I think they're a little bit of a trap. Okay, so here we're going to have to make a choice. We have Strongbow, which is a really good white-red aggro card. Definitely could have some potential. This makes, in our deck, this makes a Power Stone, Thopter's an Artifact, Automaton. There's a Mightstone's Animation, which is a card I like a lot in the Blue-White Soldiers lists. I thought we'd see more black after the Fracture 4th, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. This is a good blue card and a good red card, and there's no black cards. And we can't take the white cards. I think there's a lot of blue cards, and I haven't seen much red, and red's pretty deep. So I'm going to assume that was just a deep pack, and the Strongbow snuck through. But I don't feel like red is open, but maybe blue is, because there was, like, a draw 2, make a Power Stone, which is a pretty decent blue common in that pack as well. So I think it's more likely we're seeing blue than we're seeing red, so I went with the animation. Plus, like, we're trying to do soldiers a little bit for the Automaton, and blue-white does that better than red-white, I think, although red-white can do it too. Okay, this pack doesn't have anything great in white or blue, really. The depth charge Colossus, like, okay. I guess I'm going to take the Juggernaut? I don't know. I don't want any of these cards. The only good card was the Arbalest Engineers, and I can't go red-green from here. So I'm kind of all over the place. Looks like even the white is not... I mean, we're probably white. We have 3 white cards and Automaton, but we're not, like, super committed to it. This draft is not going well, frankly, at this point. Okay, I guess Medic or Unleash the Shell. Medic's good if you can pump it. It's good with something like Automaton. And I don't think our deck looking that aggro, more of like a white-blue, white-black with like some flyers and stuff. So I think that's the right pick. The Yoshin Medic. Okay, so looks like maybe we're not going to do what I thought we were going to do. We're going to do more of like a late-game oriented type deck. I mean, we do have a 5-drop, a 4-drop that draws a card if we play blue. The Medic now. So I'm going to go with the Avenger. It's a fine finisher if you make a few Power Stones. Kind of do more of a late-game rampy strategy. There's no way we're going to be able to play Archaeologist in a blue-white. It's mostly creatures. Archaeologist is fine in like a blue-black or a blue-red with a ton of spells, but not going to work for us. So we'll grab a Disenchant. Evolving Wilds looks like a nice pickup. Sure, if we go black-white, that card doesn't matter. We're never going to use it. That was a rough pack. Okay, so Blaststone's good. Again, it's colorless. It's good in any deck. Obviously, if you're more of like a green, rampy, late-gamey deck, it's better. But you're still happy to play this in aggro, because remember, you choose how much to pop it for. So if you've got a 2 and a 3 out, you pop it for 4, right? If you have a 2 and a 4 out, you pop it for 3. It's always going to do its job. But it is better in rampy and control strategies, because those decks play more land, are more interested in blowing up things and prolonging the game. But it's a great way to get value out of the land slot in any deck. That said, probably not going to take it over like Foundry Inspector. We have a lot of artifacts, and it looks like that's a direction we're trying to go. Third Path Iconoclast is like busted, but again, I think we have to assume we're going to play white. We even got the Disenchant like 13th pick or something. Not that it's a great card, just that white seems pretty open. And like white's the best color. If white is open, you should be drafting white. So I think this is Blast Zone or Foundry Inspector, and I think I'm going to go with Foundry Inspector. Lessen the cost of these 6-drop finishers by 1. It's pretty good. So, take another Avenger. I don't mind, because knowing we have multiples, we're going to look for ways to ramp them out, like Static Net making a Power Stone and Foundry Inspector. I mean, if I knew I was going to be white-black, I would definitely want the Power Stone Fracture. I think it's better than Avenger. I don't know that we're going to be white-black. We're just white. We don't have a second color, although I don't think it's going to be red. Not because like we have so much better black and blue than red, just because the white cards and the artifacts we have go better in a white-black or white-blue than a white-red. Oh, wait, and then there's Excavation Explosion, the best card in the pack. But yeah, I think that this deck doesn't really want to be a white-red. I think I'm just going to take Power Stone Fracture in case we go white-black. And we got that Evolving Wilds, and it's a powerful, like, you know, kill anything type removal spell, so we could always splash it, right? Like, if we do white-blue, we can just do a very light splash for 2 Fractures or something like that with a Wilds or 2. Okay, pretty easy Recruitment Officer, I think. I mean, Zephyr Sentinel is tempting, and blue would be a nice second color. Like I said, it does the Soldier thing well, but white's the color we're most committed to, and Recruitment Officer is just a fantastic card. It's a great way to get value out of your 1-drop slot. It's powerful in the late game. It's 2 power on turn 1. Basically everything you could ask for out of an uncommon. So it looks like red is pretty open. That's a late Excavation Explosion. Kind of surprised to see that. That said, I don't think we're going to go there. I think we'll stick with what we're doing. I mean, I could take the Mask. We could play like 1 Forest. Also, our deck would make for a nice green-white splash 2 Power Stone Fractures, so that is still an option. Not that it seems like we're seeing much green. I don't really want another Cavalry. Like, I'm not against playing 2, but it is kind of expensive. Trench Stalker can be good if you can trigger it, but I don't think we really have ways to do that. I don't know, the Mask isn't great if you can't flash it back, but I guess we probably can end up with some ways to flash it back, and then it's pretty good. Black-white also can do a little bit of sack, like maybe we'll get that 2-mana 2/1 that grows when you sack. I don't know if that was the right pick, but I mean, we're not really missing out on much. Battery Bearer is really good, but I mean, I don't know how we use it. I mean, I guess we could play white, blue, splash green, but then we're not splashing black. White, green, splash blue, but we have to splash blue and black. I don't think we can use Battery Bearer. Not that I can really use any of the cards in this pack. This pack kind of stinks. Guess just hold my nose and take the black playable. I don't think we're going to play Killzone, but maybe. So now there's Airlift, Chaplain, and Evolving Wilds. If we're definitely going to splash, we'd want the Evolving Wilds. But we're not definitely going to splash. I don't really have stuff to splash unless I play white, blue, and splash the 2 Fractures. I'm not going to splash Mightstone's animation. Looks like I can probably take Chaplain. It is a good 3. So I think it might be time to start getting some 2-drops. Warplow, I'm not excited to play as a 1/1 Death Touch, but it is a nice split card. You know, if you have another thing to do on turn 2, you do that, and then you have it later. If not, you can put it out to not get ran over. And we're not trying to do, you know, like a cheap deck. We're trying to do, like I said, like a grindy-ish deck. We're trying to win up here with these cards towards the top of our curve. We're not like trying to win through raw aggression or something. We can take care of their threats. We have good removal with Static Net and 2 Power Stone Fractures. I guess I should keep in mind I'm looking at a light green splash potentially, like with the Mask, just playing like 1 Forest or something. Well, turbo deck ourselves. We can just Chaplain and a Gigamole or something into Chaplain, just mill ourselves every turn. Makes the Clay Revenant a little better. Like I said, this has been a tough draft. I mean, I feel like white's pretty open. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to have drafted in this seat. I feel like we've seen decent cards, but in like almost every color. And I haven't seen anything too consistently. Probably not going to end up playing this, but maybe. Going to end up calling human because I have 3 1/1 flying humans here. Not soldier. Along those lines, do we want the Power Stone Engineer or the Warplow? Like, normally I'm not a big fan of Power Stone Engineer, but I think it looks pretty good in our deck, right? Look at all these artifacts we have. And we're interested in more expensive artifacts, too. We have the Foundry Inspector. So I think we can make decent use of Power Stone Engineer in this deck. They really gave Engineers the shaft in this format. Power Stone Engineer could definitely have been a better card. Engineers do such important work. But I guess not in Brothers War. It's all about the soldiers destroying, not building. Alright, let's see here. Prison Sentence, Fine Removal, Gruesome Realization, also pretty good. There's Jataxian Infiltrator, that's the 2-drop that grows when you sack I was talking about. I mean, we're not going to take that, obviously. We're going to take either Realization or Sentence. You can really get people with Realization once in a while, and the draw 2 is nice sometimes, because you do have a decent amount of removal in black-white. Prison Sentence is alright, though. Like, the aura-based removal isn't great in this format, but that's why, you know, it has Scry 2. Scry 2, when you don't need lands anymore, is practically draw a card, usually bottom 1 land. So I think it's a close pick. I think I'm going to go with the Realization. No, because it's double black, and I'm not going to have that many swamps in my deck. I'm going to go with the Sentence. I think Realization is probably a little better than Sentence, but double black could be an issue. I can't, you know, I'm barely playing black. I'm almost a mono white deck. So, like, I just can't have, even though it's only a 2-color deck, I just can't have that many swamps in my deck. Like, I'm going to play, like, 6 or 7 black sources. So I think that doesn't mean you can't play a double black card, but it means a double black card's probably a little bit worse if it felt like a close pick. Okay, easy Lauren here. We have tons of artifacts. Lauren is great. 4-mana 3/3 Gravedigger is excellent. There's a good artifact 2-drop. We will have 1 black by the late game to unearth it, and it's just a good card. Pretty easy pick. All right, we can't make use of Corrupt. Like I said, we're not going to have that many swamps in our deck, but Scrapbook Rager is just an excellent grindy creature. We've got the 3 Airlift Chaplains. Even though they only get creatures with power 3 or less, that's okay. We can mill right past the Rager, then bring it back from the graveyard, draw a card, and get value that way. So, I would say this deck's pretty mediocre. We don't really have, like, power rares. But most of our stuff are humans. So, I think the Automaton on Human will be pretty good. And I think we're just like a grindy-ish black-white. Like, you know, for not having great rares or having seen busted stuff, I think this deck came together okay. Alright, so I think Rager's better than Disfigure, but I'm a little worried about, like, Curve and not having a ton of early stuff here. Because, like, Mask doesn't impact the board if we even play it. A couple of 2-drops. Can't believe I'm looking at a Disfigure over a Rager, but we just have so much late game and so little early game. I don't want to get run over. So I think we need to grab a Disfigure here in pack 3. Okay, another Chaplain, number 4. Like I said, see if we can deck ourselves. Don't mind if I do. Just Chaplain into a Chaplain into a Chaplain into the Automaton and give them all +1/+1. Sounds like a plan to me. I don't know, we're not going to play any of these. These cards don't matter. Sorry, cards. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but you really just don't matter. We'll probably play 16 lands, so this is exactly right. I mean, with 4 Chaplains. Maybe I'll cut the Mask. No, we're going to mill it with a Chaplain. That's good. But we don't have a single, like, free green source, right? I'd have to play a basic forest. I could probably do that, though. Like, we have so few black cards. It'll be okay to play 1 less swamp and play a forest, right? I don't have anything else in here that I want, do I? Not really. Could play the Deadly Reposit. My deck ended up, like, pretty control, late game oriented, not very aggressive at all. I don't know, we're not going to play any of these. Don't ask me why, even as a hate draft, I took that over the 1/2 Blade Runner or whatever. Just looks sweet. I wasn't thinking. Yeah, I think I'm just going to get rid of the Mask. I don't want to put a forest in the deck just for 1 Mask. I say that, and then I immediately pick up a potential playable free green source, which I think we might use. We have, what, 2 Fractures to sack it to? Anything else? Not really. Well, we're not going to need a 3rd Revenant since I already have 2. I might play 2. I'm not going to play 3. So we'll take the Refractor, and then we can decide after whether we want to splash the Mask. Now we got the 1 free green source, which goes a long way. I don't even have to put a forest in my deck necessarily. I can just sack these Clay Revenants, not the Energy Refractor, to the Power Stones, and, like, mill them and then get them back. I think that'll be better. I like that so many of our creatures cost 3 or less with 4 Chaplains and a Recruitment Officer. I like how many humans we have. That should work out well with the Automaton. You know, we have all these 1/1 flyers and 2/2 flyers. and you give those +1/+1 in the air, that's a big deal. Giving +1/+1 to a creature matters more if it's small, right? Like if you turn a 5/5 into a 6/6, that has less value than if you turn a 1/1 into a 2/2 or a 2/2 into a 3/3. And giving a flyer +1/+1 has way more value than giving a ground creature +1/+1. Okay, so 16 lands. We just need to get to 3, and then we should never miss a land drop if we don't want to. Nothing too exciting here. The Deadly Reposit. I don't know. Is that? How do you pronounce that? Is that French? Riposte? I don't know. I have no idea what word that is. But that would be the first card in my board that I'd probably play. Let's see. What would we cut? We'd cut a Clay Revenant, Disenchant. Yeah, the cards in the deck are pretty good. I think we can run it. I mean, I wouldn't mind this card. Like I said, I really have no aggression on the ground. I might win some games through aggression in the air, but then they have to attack me back on the ground unless they have really good flying defense, and then I can use this card to swing a race. It actually seems pretty good for me. But I mean, what would I cut? 2 6-drop artifacts, 4. Like, I'm not looking to cut Spectre. Like I said, a ton of my small creatures are human, so I expect Automaton to work out on humans pretty well. Obviously, I can't cut my 2-drop creatures. I only have like 2 of them. It's partly why I want the repost here, but I don't know what I'm supposed to cut. Like, my late game cards are good, right? Like, I don't want to cut any of these. Yeah, I think it'll be all right. We shouldn't get run over. We have the 2 Clay Revenants. We have that's why I took that Disfigure over Rager, even though that pained me, because I think Rager is a substantially better card than Disfigure, to be clear. Like, you know, like 75-80% of the time, I'm taking Rager over Disfigure. But I just felt like we're gonna win the game, you know, with Recursion, and you know, with Flyers, and I just need to not get run over, and I only have 2 2-drops. Maybe I should have taken that 1/2 flyer impact 1 instead of the 3-drop when I had pick 5 when I had 2 3-drops, and that's it for creatures. I don't know. I like the Airlift Chaplains. You know, I do like the 1/2 that pumps for 5, and I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get any. But it is a card with heavier diminishing returns. Like, the Chaplains almost get better in multiples. Like, you know, not just because it's sweet when you hit a Chaplain off a Chaplain, but because you're trying to play this, like, grindy strategy where you go up cards and then, you know, win in the air by poking them. And having multiple Chaplains kind of feeds that strategy. Whereas, like, the 1/2 Ambush is a nice 2-drop, but you don't want to draw 2 or 3 of them. Then you have all these 1-power creatures. So it's a really nice card to have 1 of in your deck. I'm not saying you can't play a second. But it has pretty heavy diminishing returns, meaning each copy makes the other copies a little worse, I think. Whereas the Chaplain has positive, like, returns. Like, each copy makes the other copies better. So that's why I made that pick. I would switch it in hindsight because of what I ended up with, but that doesn't mean it was wrong at the time. You know, there's plenty of playable 2-drops. Like, I would happily have played, like, any copies of, I think it's Phalanx Vanguard, the 2/2 Vigilance for white, that gets +1 so when you play an artifact, and I just didn't see any of those, right? And I would also play another Power Stone Engineer. I can use the Power Stones just fine with the 2 Fractures and plenty of artifacts. So, you know, sometimes you just don't see what you expect to see, right? Okay, so I'm not going to trade the Recruitment Officer for the Infiltrator. And I have Disfigure to kill it, but I'm not going to Disfigure it here just to hit for 2 and strand 2 mana, right? Spending all of your mana is really valuable and important. So, like, this turn, I'm just going to take the turn off and play a 3-drop, not attack or block. And then next turn, I can play, like, Automaton and Disfigure or Rager. Or Chaplain and Disfigure, which is probably what I'm going to actually do. I don't want the Infiltrator to grow again. I don't really need to Disfigure it yet. If they're not going to sack something on their turn to grow it, then I can just wait and I can play Rager, which will help me hit my land drops. Although I don't really want to trade Recruitment Officer for Warplow, but I'm happy if those two just stare at each other, because then mine has a late game ability and theirs doesn't. And I'm not worried about Warplow ending up trading with bigger creatures, like if I was green or something. Like, if that trades with my Rager, I'm happy. So I'm going to be a little risky here, I think. It would definitely not be unreasonable to play Chaplain and Disfigure. Because you do really want to Disfigure this 3-2 but before it grows. But it's not like it's going to end up dead. You know, Disfigure already has another decent target in Warplow. And the Rager can attack. You know, if the Rager trades with the Warplow, that's good. So I think it makes sense to be a little bit greedy in this spot because I have a good attack with the Rager on the following turn. Okay, and we got rewarded by waiting because now there's a better target for Disfigure. Obviously, I'm killing Third Path Iconoclast. This card is seriously like an S-tier uncommon. Like, I don't want to say it's S-tier like a true broken rare because it just dies to a lot of removal. But if you don't kill it and they draw this card early, Third Path Iconoclast, it just makes like 5 1/1s. And then when you're making 1/1s, you use those to trade off and prolong the game, and you make even more 1/1s. It's an absolutely ridiculous card. Okay, so for now, I'm going to Disfigure it, but first, there's no reason to show them that pre-combat. It's not like they're going to block with the Iconoclast. So I'm going to attack with the Rager and the Flyer. Anything they want to trade the Rager for, I'm happy since it comes back, right? And then I'm going to Disfigure the Iconoclast, and I'm going to play Airlift Chaplain. Let's make sure it's tapping correctly. It is. Good job, Arena. Do I want to have a land, or do I want to have a 2/2 flyer? I want a land because I have this Argivian Avenger, right? If I didn't have that in my hand, I would let it be a 2/2. But I want to get to 6 and play that card. And I'm not letting them on tap. I'm not scared of the Infiltrator growing. Like, I talked about that for a turn, because yeah, if it's going to grow one more time and be a 4/3, if you can Disfigure a 4/3, that's a good Disfigure. But even better is cutting off Third Path Iconoclast for making another 5 1/1s or whatever that thing would do. So no real decision there. I think we can race fine. I'm not going to trade the Flyer off for the 1/1 ground creature, especially when it's going to be a 2/2 Flyer if I play this on human. Which I probably will end up doing, but first I'm going to play the Avenger, use all 6 mana. I know you can give it haste, but we don't know if we're going to draw our land or not. I'm not going to sit around with a 6-drop in my hand hoping to draw a land. If they kill it, so be it. I have other stuff to do. If they don't kill it, then I can give it flying, and, I mean, the game's pretty much over. I don't know what they have, but I can be bluffed. Probably a Whirling Strike, maybe a Disfigure, maybe nothing at all. But they're dead in 2, so I can beat a Whirling Strike, so I'm going to play around it. Definitely want to give this flying. Not interested in them chumping with 1/1. I guess no reason to miss a damage. Also going to play this. I don't think Disenchant's really doing more than Harvester here. I guess, no, wait, I don't want them to attack with Harvester of theirs because then they get rid of the Rager, so I'm going to Disenchant it rather than play Harvester. Normally, I would play the creature first and hold on to the removal, but at the start of combat, I'm going to Disenchant the Harvester, and, you know, I can do it in combat at the start of it so that they can't, like, unearth it this turn, and that preserves my ability to bring Rager back from the graveyard. So that's why I went with Disenchant instead of Harvester on the last turn. I wish this deck had more grindy stuff besides the Chaplains, like to go into, like higher powered stuff like Ragers and Cohorts. It's weird. It felt like white was open, but we didn't see any Scrapwork Cohort, which is, you know, the best white common creature, maybe the best white common. Although I'm actually higher on Prison Sentence, I think, than a lot of people. Like I said, Scry 2 is not some tack-on ability. Like, once you don't need lands, 40% of your deck is land, so Scry 2 is practically draw a card. You bottom a land, and then instead of drawing it, and the land would have done almost nothing for you. But yeah, anyways, definitely the best common creature, maybe the best overall common for white. And we didn't see any. And then Phalanx Vanguard is nothing special. I usually consider it pretty filler. But it's a solid white 2-drop that you're looking to fill out your curve with, and we didn't see any of those. But it felt like I saw a lot of white cards, right? Was that just me? Was I sticking to white too hard for the static net? Because, I mean, I don't know what other 2 colors I would have drafted. I'm not sure, like... You know, I don't feel like I put blinders on. I was willing to drop white. Mid-pack one I mentioned, I only had a couple white cards. I just didn't really see an opportunity, I don't think, to go into some other colors. So I'm going to play the Medic first. If that lives, then next turn we'll probably play Automaton on Human. And then we get to hit with a 2-power Lifelinker. There's no 3-drop that's going to successfully block this. I mean, there's some that might bounce with. Well, there goes that whole plan, huh? Now, I mean, I can block, I guess, but that's not even really good. If I put out the Automaton and hold back the 2-5 to block and they attack, I can't really block, right? Because let's say they kill the Automaton, then my Yoshin Medic will shrink back from a 2-5 to a 1-4 and die also. And if I play the Automaton and attack, I'm not gaining the 2 life because of the Cindermaw's ability, and they can just block. So that was a really bad play for me. I think I just have to play the Warplow here and chill, right? Like, I could Power Stone Fracture it, but that seems unnecessary since the Warplow stops it. And if they have, like, a Whirling Strike, a Disfigure, whatever, it's okay, because my next play is Loran to get back the Warplow. But also, Loran's a 3-3, so that can block the Cindermaw, too. So I think this game swung in a way that's bad for me, but I don't want to get desperate and, like, Power Stone Fracture, sacking the Warplow, a card that could stop Cindermaw by itself, you know, just because I'm scared they're going to have removal. Like, if they can kill everything forever, then they're going to win. That's how Magic works. But now I get to play another creature that can also block the Cindermaw. So I got to let them kind of steal the initiative here, even though I didn't want to, because ultimately, I mean, I'm not going to 2-for-1 myself, sacking Warplow, which stops Cindermaw, and Power Stone Fracture to kill Cindermaw. So now we've got either the Warplow or the Avenger. We'll see. That's kind of scary because they know I have the Warplow, so for them to be disfiguring the 1-4. I guess they don't know, you know, maybe I have Land 6. I'm going to play it as a 5-4, and then it can't be disfigured. I went with the Avenger there over the Warplow because it stops a 4-3, whereas this is a 5-4, so it would still just be a trade, and it's not really a good trade for me. They're probably going to have something, but I don't know. I mean, Whirling Strike is +2/+0. Disfigure is +2/+0. This block seems more profitable. I guess they could have, like, the deal 3, but to finish it off. And then I'd rather have blocked the Cindermaw. But, I mean, I'm not Psychic, and I guess we'll take the 2-for-1. Okay, so Warplow is a 5-4 to trade with it, but Harvester is a 3-1 also trades with it, and then we can play Automaton. These are all constructs. Even though my deck has way more humans, I think at this point I have to name Construct. Also, if they work through the Harvester too, this is kind of nice that the Warplow is a construct, so that will actually be a 6-5 next turn. So if they're on, like, one more trickle removal to get through the Harvester, maybe I can stop them at the last opportunity with the Warplow as a 6-5. So there's still hope here. Obviously, we can't beat much else, but I would say there's still hope at this point. So you don't want to miss attacks, but also you don't want to lose the game to one removal spell when you have a handful of gas. So we're going to chill for now. Okay, so that's pretty scary. The Junkyard Genius's ability to give Menace is not something we're going to beat on this board, so we're probably going to have to Power Stone Fracture that. That's all right. We can sack the Rager. And then we can just mostly try and win in the air. At some point, I might send the 6-5 Death Touch on the ground. I mean, I know they're not holding removal, but, like, if I send the 6-5, they can crash with these 3. I get a decent trade with the Harvester and the Automaton on the Opportunist. I take 4. I fall into burn range. That doesn't seem good. I have a ton of gas in hand. Like I said, at some point I'll send the 6-5 because I'll be winning and I'll have other stuff out, but that time is not now. Just like we drew it up, right? Chaplain and a Chaplain. That said, I'm going to play the Thopter because it's going to have 2 power guaranteed. I know I have the option to have 2 power off the Chaplain, but I'd rather take more creatures. So we'll put out our 2 power flyer, and then next turn we can Chaplain again and see if we dig up more stuff. Well, it was a nice comeback, but I think now we are pretty dead. Didn't expect them to top deck Fade from History and kill all my stuff. It's a rare after all. I was fairly stable against, you know, one removal spell. So I thought I liked my chances, but I think I'm pretty dead now. Yeah, we're just dead. Good beats. You know, it's not like I expect my opponents to draw nothing. I was at 7. I wasn't in burn range. If they drew, like, you know, destroy an artifact or, you know, unleashed shell or whatever, like, I would have been fine, you know. They could have had an attack, but I would have had blocks. It would have been okay. Could have still won that game. And it's not like I was sitting around forever. I was starting to turn the corner with the flyers, and I would have hit some creatures off those chaplains, and then I would have started attacking with the 6/5 Death Touch too pretty soon. But, you know, that's a rare that blew up my board and won them the game. Not complaining. It's a sweet rare. It's a good design, but obviously I wasn't in a position to be playing around it or even thinking about it. Hopefully we'll draw one land. In the meantime, we have Disenchant and Fracture, but if I draw a land, I have not only Thopter, but Chaplain to find land 4, and then I'm one land away from Cavalry, and life is good. Well, that's a target for Disenchant. I could wait for them to sink mana into it, potentially. The thing is, my mana is already open, and I'm not going to spend anything else into their turn. And if I do draw a land, I have 2 3-drops and then a 5-drop to spend my mana on. So I don't think I want to make them spend 1 to hit me, potentially. Round 2. I need a land so I can put out my flyers. That would be nice. Hooray. Okay, again, I'm going to put out the 2-power flyer first. Actually, I guess, should I attack here? I'm up... Yeah, I should attack, right? I should have done that first. Sorry about the order. No big deal, but... Because, I mean, I'm up 20 to 18. I'm trying to win with flyers. My cards are pretty cheap. Next turn, I'll most likely play Chaplain and Disfigure, or at least just Chaplain. Oh, that's definitely going to swing a race, so I might have to take the turn off and Power Stone Fracture with the Clay Revenant. I could chump with it. I'm not really sure what I want to do here. If I didn't draw a land, I would almost certainly Power Stone Fracture the 4/4. Now I kind of want to just Airlift Chaplain, I think. Hit them for 3 and leave 1 up for Disfigure on the Surge Engine, potentially. I can get a land. Do I want one of these? I guess I'll take the Clay Revenant. I mean, I don't know. Probably not. Maybe I should just have an extra power. I don't know. The thing is, like, am I going to cast this Yoshin Medic? Maybe. I mean, I could swing a race. I do have Airlift Cavalry, but do I want to put a +1/+1 flyer? +1/+1 counter on it? I guess the Airlift Chaplain and the Thopter are not soldiers. So maybe I want the Medic just because I can turn it into a 2/5. I don't think this is great. I really wanted a Plains, to be honest. Just trying to curve out. But I guess if I'm going to try and race, like a 2/5 lifelink is hard to race. Okay, so they have to go to a 3/2 and then a 5/4, so I can try and Disfigure it end of turn. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but it's not like they can blow me out by pumping it in response. They're going to have to use a card. And I definitely want to spend all my mana. This is not a game where I'm going to play cat and mouse. This is a game where, like, I'm going to finish this game with cards in my hand, you know? So I just want to be spending my mana. That card's scary, but I have Fracture. It's a race game, not like a sit-around game. If they counter that or something, like, for example, what they did, bouncing it, when are they going to play this activated and hit me, you know? Like, that's just not something I'm really scared of, right? Okay, so the plan for now is going to be Airlift into Plains, and then Power Stone the 4/4. I'm not scared of this Surge Engine. It's a really, really powerful card, like an S-tier Broken Rare. But at this point in this game, you know, we're racing. I'm just not, like, what's the word for this? Like, I'm not worried about losing to that card's abilities, right? Maybe this is a little bit of a spewy use of removal, not because of Surge Engine, but because they could have a flyer. But there aren't that many. Like, you know, the Rock is a card sometimes people play, sometimes they don't. There aren't a lot of like big blue and black flyers that I'm expecting somebody to put out here. So I think I'll most likely just be able to poke them to death in the air. And like, I'm not really scared of the Surge Engine, like I said. I mean, what are they gonna hit me for 5 next turn and then die? Like, it's fine. So here, that puts them to 6. And then I'm going to play the Cavalry. I know I didn't get to put the counter on the Medic like I talked about, but this gives me 6 points in the air. So now they have to play a flyer or they're dead. So, I mean, they can't activate Surge Engine and draw cards. They can't... I mean, they can activate it into a 5/4, but then it's still not killing me on the following turn, and they have to stop my flyers. So, like, let's say they have an answer for Cavalry, and so, like, let's say they go, like, kill Cavalry, hit me for 5. Okay, I hit them back for 4. I play something. Now, next turn, they have to also kill the Reconstructed Doctor. I mean, like, if they have a handful of removal, maybe, if it's cheap and they can activate the engine, but it seems like it's a tough spot for them to win a race. That was the reason I made the aggressive play of Power Stone fracturing the 4/4 ground creature that I have Clay Revenant that could block. It's because like I wanted to make this game a race so that I could basically beat Surge Engine without actually having to kill it, right? Because Surge Engine, like if you're like ahead in a race, it's fantastic. It's a 5/4 that can't be blocked, and then if they stabilize, you can draw 3 cards, right? But if they're winning a race against you, the card does virtually nothing. Like it can't be blocked, doesn't matter if you're the one who needs to block. Pay 6 and draw 3 is cool if you're not under a lot of pressure, but if you're gonna if you can't take a turn off or you're just gonna end up dying, then you can't use that. So that was the plan there. I mean, look, it wasn't guaranteed to work out. They could have had a couple of cheap removal spells and swung that game, and then you'd be like, hey, why did you Power Stone fracture like a 4/4 ground creature when you knew they had a Surge Engine, right? But I didn't think we were going to win if they were holding multiple cheap removal, and I really didn't think they had those cards in their hand, because I think they would have killed... Like, if they had a Disfigure in their hand, they would have disfigured the Thopter at some point, right? It's a 3-mana 2/1 flyer. Disfigure costs 1. They didn't spend all of their mana on every turn. Like, there's a point where they would have disfigured it. So, like, if they had removal, I thought it was probably, like, expensive removal. Like, say, like, the 5-mana Black Exile. Maybe they had, like, a creature in their yard or whatever. And if I wasn't worried about them taking a turn off and kill the 3/4 flyer, like I said, because that's a race I'm winning still. So, I don't know. That was an aggressive line by me for sure. I know it happened to work out. I think it was right, though, because I don't think I was going to win that game the other way. Even if I don't kill the 4/4, then they have the removal for my flyers and I kill the Surge Engine. They probably have ways to recur it, other ways to draw cards. Like, that just doesn't feel like a reliable path to victory. It feels like the game where they just don't have multiple cheap removal in their hand or the ability to stop my flying armada. I make Surge Engine bad because it's too slow and, in that spot. It's not too slow in general. It's a fantastic card. And, I play to win a race in that spot with my flyers. I think that was correct. Okay, play the Harvester. It's only choice. If they attack, I'll definitely block the Recruitment Officer. If they attack with just Frontliner, I'll probably take the 1, since the Harvester is threatening 3 and or stopping the Recruitment Officer. If I play the Airlift Chaplain next turn and I make it a 1/1, it won't be able to block Officer if they attack with it in Frontliner, so I do have to consider that. If I make it a 2/2, I wouldn't mind trading it for the Recruitment Officer. White-red is more aggressive than white-black, and I'm on the draw, and Rager can go up a card, Lauren can go up a card or 2 if it's getting back Rager. So I do want to play defensively and make trades. Try and keep my life total up here. So I think I'm just going to play my own Chaplain, planning to make it a 2/2 and trade with theirs. Unless I get like another Chaplain or something, I obviously have to take that. What about a Medic? 1/4, is that going to be able to attack? Maybe. Saw how well taking it worked out last game. I finished the game with it still in my hand. I mean, obviously the inclination should be to take it, and a 1/4 lifelink is more effective against white-red. But if I don't draw a way to pump it, I just don't think it's going to do anything. I know they can attack here and pump the Chaplain with the frontliner, but if they don't have like a removal, then my Airlift Chaplain as a 2/2 eats the frontliner for them to get in that 3 damage. I think I just want the +1/+1 counter. It's very relevant right now. I've got the Harvester to get the frontliner out of the yard at some point if they do like an attack with it just to get in some damage, figuring they can bring it back again later. I've got like, you know, I would have took the Cavalry if I could, obviously, to have a big flyer, but that wasn't an option. I've got like 2 or 3 more Chaplains. And like I said, I just want this trade, and I want to keep my life total up so I can win the game with all this card advantage. That's the real plan here. Okay, so now I have to attack with the Harvester because I get a mutt out of their yard, otherwise they get to bring it back. I'm fine with it trading with any of their stuff. The only thing I don't love is I don't have it up for defense, but the Rager's a pretty good blocker here. Could Loran it back, but I'd probably rather Loran back the Rager. If I get the option. If not, I'm not unwilling to Loran back the Harvester, obviously. And so now they kind of have to use the frontliner or they lose it forever. Not saying that's that big of a deal, but, you know, there's value in denying them on Earths. So we'll see what they want to do. If they attack with their Recruitment Officer, whether it's a 2/1 or a 3/2, snap block with the Rager, obviously. That's such a good trade for me. Okay, so they didn't do that. So I think play Airlift Chaplain and Harvester just makes a lot of sense. I can get rid of that frontliner. I don't think the Harvester's doing more than that. If the Rager's stopping their whole ground team, that's good by me. Right. I know they have the Paratrooper, the little annoying 1/2 that I wish I had copies of, but I'm going to play the Foundry Inspector post-combat here. So that can block their Foundry Inspector or their Recruitment Officer, and I would be quite happy with trading with their Recruitment Officer. And obviously, it's just an even trade with their Foundry Inspector, but it's a trade I want because then I can lure in it back for value. So we'll see what they want to do as far as combat. Obviously, they're attacking the air is good for now for them. But if they attack on the ground, Inspector can block Inspector despite the pump. If they attack with everything on the ground, Inspector blocks Recruitment Officer, which denies them the ability to activate it. Which is good, given they're out of cards and have 5 mana, and it's the late game. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm falling a little too far behind. I don't really think so. I'm taking 4, 6, 8. I mean, I have 1 flyer. Granted, I guess it can't really block their stuff. That's a good draw. So now we can lock down this Paratrooper. Oh, that was so sloppy. I should have played the Chaplain first. That was so bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would have milled those anyway, but now what do I do? I can't get any scry value. I have to play the Chaplain, so I guess I just bottom these. I mean, don't get me wrong, they don't really have any targets for removal right now, but obviously I should have sequenced these the other way. I got excited because I drew the Prison Sentence and I didn't plan my whole turn. That was just very, very bad magic. So Automaton has to be better than a counter, right? It's going to give a count. It's basically going to give it a counter when I call human anyway. And Rager's blocking Inspector, so no attack. Anyway, so Prison Sentence on the Paratrooper is definitely correct. It stops activated abilities too. The only thing I did wrong there was the sequence. I should have played Chaplain first, and then I could have gotten more value off the scry. It's not that there was removal on top, like I would have milled through those, whatever. It's that, like, I basically killed the scry on Prison Sentence by doing those in the wrong order. So I can give the Chaplain +1/+1 and block the bigger creature next turn, so I can't block the 1/1 flyer this turn. That was a really nice draw by them, the Aeronaut's Wings. Well, that's a big flyer, potentially. So I can use that to trade with the Inspector. And then I can get it back. I can play Loran and Automaton here. What am I Loraning? Like the Warplow or something, but it doesn't fly. I think I want to be Loraning the Avenger. It's unfortunate, because, like, it's just a trade at this point. But, still probably right. Probably should have done this in the other order. I'm playing really sloppy today. I don't know why. I apologize. Because, like, I was thinking, like, oh, am I really attacking with the Rager? But the answer is yes, right? If they block sack, fine, I made them do it. If they take it so they can poke me back for 1, then they're not sacking this. Then they're not doubling their chances of finding a removal spell to win the game. So, like, the right play for them is to block sack, probably, because if they draw, like, a pump or removal, they pretty much win. But, like, there's no reason for me to show them the Avenger first then. It's just a sloppy play. Hopefully I don't lose a tight game because of my own sloppy play here, but... I mean, if they break off here, I can definitely win. But I feel like my back ended up to the wall. And it's a game I thought I was going to be able to turn, but then this Aeronaut Wings into Sibling Rivalry, I mean, obviously that's going to seal it. And I'm just dead. I mean, don't get me wrong, my punts there did not cost me the game. It was just a little bit of value and very sloppy. But, and, like, I didn't play bad just because, like, you know, like, I was going to stabilize, and then, you know, they drew a couple of cards to really turn the game there. But, you know, you always want to play tight. You never know what your opponent's going to draw. And if they don't draw like that, you know, the ability to scry on top like a Chaplain and start digging and build my board, you know, could have mattered. So definitely, I made a common mistake there of drawing a really good draw for me, the Prison Sentence, and being like, oh yeah, now I can deal with this 1/2 and stabilize. And, you know, you still got to plan your whole turn, right? You can't just, like, of course it was correct to put it on that creature, and I knew that immediately, but you still got to plan your whole turn at once, you know, line up all your cards in the right order in combat, and make sure you plan everything through. That's one of the key pieces of advice I always give everybody I'm coaching and things like that, because that's how you avoid mistakes like that. You know, you want to always think through as far ahead as you can at one time with the information you have. You don't want to just do things. Even if you're sure that thing is correct, maybe by stringing, you know, by planning a lot at once, you end up realizing, yeah, this thing is correct, but I'm going to do this after combat, even though it would be more intuitive to do it before combat. Or I'm going to do this other spell and then that spell, as was the case there. So, sorry for the small error, but it does provide a good thing to talk about, and we'll try and play tight this game. Okay, so as far as sequencing here, I could go turn 1 Wilds, get a Swamp, turn 2 Recruitment Officer, and be able to play Disfigure. I could go turn 2 Harvester, or turn 1 I could play Recruitment Officer. Then turn 2, I can't play anything unless I draw an on-tap land. So we get the ability to spend our mana better by playing turn 1 Wilds. Because Wilds is basically a tap land, it's spend 1 mana, right? Tap lands, you basically, like, they come to play tap, it's like paying 1 to put them out. So if I play the Recruitment Officer this turn, I might deal, well, I will deal 2 on turn 2 most likely, but I also won't, I'll have an unspent mana a lot of the time on turn 2, right? I'll have this Plains that I can't use. If I do it this way, now if I can play Harvester and use both mana on 2, then I can play Recruitment Officer and Disfigure. So it's unfortunate that I couldn't go 1, 2, 3 with this hand, but this is a better way to sequence and spend all your mana. So I don't mind this trade, but I'm not going to be able to exile it. Well, if they want to bring it back on turn 3 instead of impacting the board, that's kind of good for me. If they don't, I can exile it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with disfiguring it to go beatdown. Disfigure only kills small things, but I'm going to spend my 3 mana here on Chaplain. So I don't think an attack really accomplishes anything. See what it looks like next turn. Plains would be nice, but I think we're just chaplaining for chaplains, right? We could always take a plains off this one if we see it, if we don't draw land for our turn. Blue-white does have some flyers, and given my exact hand, I think the potential plan is going to be to use Disfigure on their flyer, most likely, not their ground creatures. So for now, I'll happily trade Chaplains. They can pump theirs. I mean, I'm going to try and get them with Disfigure, but there's no guarantee that's going to line up. So now we definitely take Automaton, pump our flyers, or maybe our constructs even, gets it past the courier. We'll see. Like, they should know I have Disfigure because the auto tapper just left a black up and it's pausing. If they go for the 2 counters on something, I can Disfigure it in response, whether it's itself or the courier. If they don't, I don't really want to Disfigure courier here end of turn. But, I mean, I can definitely just play this. I mean, there's more value in human, for sure. I mean, this is a human and this is a human. Well, that's a good enough Disfigure target for me anyway. I guess that was better for them than losing the 2 counters, but I'm pretty happy to Disfigure a 3/2 flyer. But, so if I play the Automaton, I can then get in a nice attack with the 3/1. But is that even better than pumping the Recruitment Officer and the Chaplain? Probably not. What is Lauren getting back? Nothing yet. Yeah, I think I'm just going to attack with the 3/1. So I think I'm going to play this on human, and I'm just going to let them trade. The reason for this is I think that if they want to bring back the courier and draw cards now, that's going to be like, you know, they're going to fall really far behind. That's going to be a really good turn for me. And if we trade, I can get mine back with Loran, or I can just bring it back and hit for 3 and get rid of the courier out of their yard. And while I didn't really want to do that on turn 3, if I don't draw a land, I'm running out of stuff to do. And I'm really trying to pressure them from this point, I think. I know I can win a late game with a Recruitment Officer and Argivian Avenger, but I also have 3 creatures out to their 0 right now and 7 power on board. So it feels like a game where I should be pushing the offensive. Well, 4/4 really shuts down my ground offense. Not super happy about that. But we still have the Air Force, and we should find land sooner or later, and then we have the Argivian Avenger too. And I mean, I have a lot of removal for 4/4. Granted, I seem to have milled it all. Power Stone Fracture and Static Net. So there's like 1 more Fracture in the deck. I wonder what they're going to pump. I mean, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, but the 6/6 is the creature that can attack. I don't really mind trading off all my ground creatures for it. I might just throw them all in front of it. Then I can Loran back the Automaton. The Rager comes back and draws a card. I don't know, that feels bad though. But what else do I do? I can take 6 once, but what am I going to do next turn? Doesn't feel good. But I don't have a lot of removal. I guess I can block with just Rager and then Lauren back the Rager. And then next turn I only have to block it with Lauren and Recruitment Officer. But Recruitment Officer... And then I don't lose Automaton, and that's pretty important. So I guess that's probably correct. Because Automaton pumping all my Chaplains seems like a pretty valuable thing here. And getting back Ragers is pretty nice. Draw another card. And I don't really have Legends. Once Loran's in play, like, I'm happy to trade it off. And this ensures I get good value off it. And I really don't see myself activating Recruitment Officer this game. I just have so much to do, right? Like, this finds more stuff to spend more mana on. This finds more stuff. Like, it's really hard for me to believe I'm going to end up paying for and activating a Recruitment Officer. So I didn't want to trade off Automaton, because this is a game that, like, the Chaplains all getting +1/+1 in the air matters a lot. But I'll happily trade Recruitment Officer and Loran here. Might be sort of risky block. I guess there's Military Discipline. I don't think that's a card people usually play, like maybe a red-white aggro. Their deck didn't seem to me like they would have that card. So, nothing exciting to Harvester now. I think I'm just going to attack with the Chaplain and then play the Argivian Avenger. I mean, it's not really a race I'm currently winning, hitting for 2 and taking 4 back, but if they can't deal with the Avenger directly, then, I mean, 4/4 Flyer has to trade with the 2 Chaplains. If they do deal with it, I can always switch gears and hold the Chaplain up next turn. I'm still at 17. So I think it's worth pressing the damage right now. Plus, I might get a ground attack at some point. It's not like their ground defense exists anymore. See what happens here. Also, if they don't have any other removal after that, a 3/3 Chaplain stops them from attacking. I don't know if I'm going to make it a 2/2 or a 3/3. Obviously, it's going to depend on what we hit. Probably should have played the land first. There's that 1 counter unless they pay 4. Well, I guess I'm going to make it a 3/3 because I don't have a choice. But yeah, so that totally stops their Air Force at the moment. This attack feels good, I guess. It gives them the ability to Simulacrum, since they have the Elsewhere Flask, I guess, and pump and have a big flyer. So there's some downside there. So maybe I shouldn't have sent the Clay Revenant on the ground. But I mean, I don't know. I have to assume I can work through the 1 big flyer, and like, it's basically a free attack otherwise. And if I don't make it, they can attack on the ground with the Simulacrum, and I'm not going to just take the 2 each turn. I can't do that. So like, I'm going to block it anyway. So I don't know. This doesn't seem great, but I think it's probably correct. I'm kind of concerned that I just milled my other Power Stone Fracture. I don't actually know if I have more removal in my deck. That's a little bit of a concern. I mean, they're decking first, 13-13 now, so that's something we should have on our mind. Make sure we don't excessively draw cards if we can't win, if we can't beat a 4/4 flyer. I have a Prison Sentence left in my deck, so that's a way to beat a 4/4 flyer. That might be the only card. I mean, you know, it's a 13-card deck, but the 1 Prison Sentence might be the only way. That's another problem. Where are all my opponents getting all these rares and mythics from today? This is going to be interesting. I mean, In the Trenches is really good. It can take out a flyer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to win or not. I'm definitely glad to have a little bit of a race. Now we can bring back Harvester. Can't send the Chaplain. I have to chump with that, unfortunately, because I'm at 6 and they have 2 3-power flyers. But I can get rid of the Simulacrum. I mean, I'm obviously not happy at all that they had In the Trenches. That was a really good card for them to have there, and it's kind of a problem. But I mean, they probably should have played the Simulacrum last turn and the In the Trenches the following turn. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. This is tight. Like, I don't have 5, I guess, and I'm chump blocking. So maybe this locks up a win for them. Oh, yeah, you know what else? Well, I'm going to 1. I can take the 2 from the Courier coming back and 3 from a Chaplain, chump a Chaplain. And then I just need +2 to kill them if they don't draw something. I don't know if I have that, but... Is there, what are my outs like? Prison Sense is no longer going to work. I have to draw something that interacts with 2 things. I don't think I have anything. I think they're going to win. Well, this was a good game. I think I played this one correctly. Prioritizing the Chaplain and the Air and the Flyers. Losing the game down the stretch to In the Trenches. I mean, good beats. So this was kind of a little disappointing. Well, I don't have to chump now. They didn't send both, so I guess they're afraid to die on the backswing, which is fine. I could chump now, or I can chump next turn. It's pretty much the same. So if I draw, like, Prison Sentence, there's still a game. But yeah, or the Airlift Cavalry would be really good. Those are my 2 draws that are good. Aeronaut Cavalry, not Airlift, or whatever. Is that a second Simulacrum? Okay. But yeah, so I don't know if I can realistically win, especially now that they just drew another Simulacrum, but if I do draw the Prison Sentence or the 3/4 Flyer, this game definitely is not over. Sadly, as much as I talked up Engineers during the drafting portion, that's not going to do it. Alright. We're dead. Good game. So, that was kind of a disappointing run. I don't think my deck was very good. I don't want to only post videos where I get 7 wins or my deck's great. I think those games were reasonably good, except for like my missequencing in the previous game. But I don't think there's any shot it cost me the game. Really, Black-White Grindy is good in this format. It's one of my favorite archetypes. But you know, you need a little more power than I had. Some rares and uncommons. Also, those games just didn't break my way. I mean, honestly, like I stabilized against the red-green deck, and then they draw Fade from History. I stabilized against the red-white deck, and then they drew 2 good draws in a row. The equipment that gives flying when they were empty-handed in a sibling rivalry, and I would have turned that game in a few turns. And then that was just a good game against the blue-white, and I lost In the Trenches, and you know, just a lot of value. So, really, I would say that the deck wasn't great, but also those were just games where you know you lose when your opponents draw a little better than you down the stretch in good games. That's magic. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. I hope the 1080p worked all right. Let me know if it did or didn't. And I will see you next time.